I've been in a Bond mood lately, even before the Bond news, which obviously you and I haven't even had a chance to talk about this, but just this week it was announced that Amazon MGM now has complete creative control over the James Bond, so that's instead of Eon Productions and the Broccoli family who've had control of it since 1962 or whatever.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
this doesn't necessarily mean we're any closer to a James Bond movie, technically. There's still a lot of people kind of nervous about that.
I think the problem is if you look at their track record specifically with something like Lord of the Rings, then it might mean bad things for the Bond franchise. And I also think that James Bond has always been a little different as far as spy thrillers go.
Yes. Your kind of worry of the James Bond series, I think you kind of worry that it's just becoming something, it's blending in with everything else. It's just kind of generic action
Yeah,
genre.
like I would,
I think you feel it's losing a little bit of the character.
it is, and I would hate to see it become something like the Mission Impossible movies or something, where like those are fun, they're actiony, but there's just something about Bond, and I'm not even sure what it is really.
No, I
He's
agree
always
with
just
you.
been an interesting character to watch on screen. Yeah, I'm also worried I mean, we've spoken about this a million times, but the direction the last movie went, I didn't like the last movie. You did. I didn't like how it ended. I didn't like what they did to the character.
You know we're getting an Amazon Prime original on like Q or something. You know we're getting that.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the list of
It's
movies.
going to be the Young
Octopussy.
Q Adventures or something.
Yeah.
James Bond is under new ownership, as we know. How would you like? And I guess these are two different questions. You can answer them the same way if you would want to. But how would you like to see the series proceed? How would you expect to see the series proceed?
I'm not sure how the series would proceed after the last Bond movie, where
Well, yeah,
the
and that's
character of
that's
James
the
Bond
elephant
is
in the
killed.
room, of course.
So, and I'm wondering, there has been kind of pushback lately of quote unquote DEI stuff, women stuff, and I'm sure they're possibly going to cast a woman or a person of color to be Bond, which is fine if you want to go that route.
I would rather person of color than woman for whatever reason. I don't know why, but
What's
like,
it's because and
what's because they can't call it James Bond. Is it
no,
Jane
you'd have to
Bond?
call it.
Like it's
You just have to
yeah,
call them 007. 007 in.
yeah. And we had a woman 007 in No Time to Die when James is like off the grid for a while or whatever. Like that was kind of fun. She was good. I liked her.
Yeah, but after that, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how they would proceed. What I would like to see is they maybe just like stop for 10 or 15 years and
And it's
regroup.
possible that's what they do, but probably not considering Amazon has just made this purchase. I'm sure they have something in mind.
I don't think we're going to get a movie. I think we're going to get one of those high budget miniseries of like
Son of
six
a
episodes
bitch.
or something.
That's
And it's
gonna
going
be
to
the
be,
fucking worst.
oh, it's going to be shit. And they're going to try to make it.
They're going to have a Q series. I guarantee it. There's going to be the Young Adventures of Q. That's like I would bet my life. We're getting a Q TV series.
Do you think they're going to try to bring
Streaming.
Judi Dench back?
No, and she wouldn't want to. She's in her 80s probably. She's just like I don't need this shit. But that's the interesting thing too. And obviously it depends on when the next movie comes out. But like, do we keep Ray Fiennes as M? Do we keep Naomi Harris as Moneypenny?
That would be nice.
Those are
because
questions they're going to ask. And Ben Whishaw, the voice of Paddington as Q, I really enjoy him in that role.
he's a really good Q. He is.
He is.
What I don't.
How do you feel about them making him gay?
And I was actually just about to bring that up.
I
and that's-
enjoyed that. I liked how that was introduced. Like, it was like
it's
Bond
cute how it's
accidentally
introduced.
crashed
It is
his
fun.
date, basically.
Yeah, and
And
I think
plus
it's
Ben
fun.
Whishaw, the actor, is gay, I believe.
Yeah, and it's fine that they made him gay. That's fine. But what I don't like is that modern companies want to shoehorn sexuality into movie in the sense they're going to make a character gay who's never been gay.
Yeah, to me
know?
that felt like it was just like a thing in the movie that it didn't feel. I thought they accomplished that in a way that didn't feel like it was like we are making him gay. This is a gay Q. It was just like it just came up in the movie. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I thought that was handled well for whatever that was worth.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really have a problem with it, but as like a rule of thumb, I don't
I know what
like
you're saying.
when they make characters
Well,
You know,
and I remember
anyways.
even going back to because a lot of this stuff works. They're just trying, and so many of these people are on, Comic-Con circuits and stuff like that. But, like, there's always some asshole journalist out there who, like, whether this has been discussed or not, they'll be like, hey, they're thinking about making that character that you played 40 years ago gay. What do you think of that? And it's all like entrapment. They're just trying to get them to say something
Yeah, and the
that's going
actor
to
has
get
to be like, oh,
clicks.
well, I think whatever direction they want to take my character in is great, and it's
Yeah, I
great
mean
for the
that's how they're trained
LGBTQ2
to
plus
speak.
community. Yeah.
And of all people, the one to rebel against that was George Takei, because George Takei was just like, no, like I was gay, but Sulu isn't. Like Gene Roddenberry did not make him gay. Like don't do that. And and they were probably whoever was asking him that I'm sure was not expecting that
No, they were
response.
probably shocked.
Yeah, they were probably like, "Oh my god!" But then also like nothing came of it because it's not like they actually made a point of making Sulu gay in like
Yeah,
it's not like that was a big
it's not
part
like there
of the
was a
next Star Trek project or anything.
yeah, it's not like they had a male on male sex scene that was interrupted by an alien attacking the ship or something, you know?
Or an alien attacking the ship that gets interrupted by fucking Sulu.
Oh my god.
Oh my.
I think the way James Bond ended up is worrisome. And I know Daniel Craig
It
wanted
is
out of the
it,
role.
it's worrisome in the sense because like how do you continue it? I'll admit, and I will circle back to something in relation to that. But let's just reflect on the Daniel Craig films for a second here, and if we're continuing the Bond character, because Craig was a departure in a lot of ways.
He,
Bond
he,
was
he was a
less of a
departure.
womanizer. He was a one woman man. Do they continue with that? I think they have to because I think people don't want womanizer Bond. I think that has aged poorly.
It has, but that's
That's
you
an
know, I
essential part of the character, and yet maybe we can just have them have like really passionate affairs with one woman in each movie. Like, that might be like a way to kind of split the difference a little bit. I don't know.
but that's also the tough thing, right? Because I mean, spoilers for the end of this movie. He gets married and his wife gets killed. And I think that's the way you have to play Bond as a character. And I might catch some flack for this, but he has to be a womanizer because that's the character. That's part of the thing that attracted male audiences to James Bond in the 60s is that he's this globe-trotting secret agent who gets to fuck all these beautiful women all over the world.
I'm going to push back and say you can still have a globe-trotting adventurer, super secret spy who fucks one beautiful woman in the world. Is that big of a difference? Because that's kind of what the Craig movies did. I think they can still do that. I would want to see a new woman each movie, personally. I think one of the failure of the Craig movies was that they never made the Leia Seydoux character interesting enough to warrant a repeat
No, I
on
agree.
her. Like, she wasn't bad. There was nothing wrong with her, but we didn't need two movies with her. I don't know. I mean, we've had a lot of memorable Bond girls throughout the series, a lot of whom deserved a second movie, I would say, more than Leia Seydoux. I would say Barbara Bach in The Spy Who Loved Me was Agent Triple X. That's a really fun character. If we could have gotten more than one movie with her, that would have been kind of neat. And, there have been a lot of shitty ones, too, don't get me wrong. Denise Richards, Christmas Jones. We got a Christmas Jones
I thought
offshoot
Christmas
on
only came
Amazon
once
Prime.
a year.
Yeah,
Oh
that's why
my
they
God,
named
yeah.
her that, right? That's the
Oh,
only reason.
100%. There's no other reason.
They reverse engineered one of the sleaziest jokes in motion picture history.
Yeah, they were like, how can we end the movie on a joke? Oh, what if we call her Christmas Jones? Perfect. That's
Yeah.
it.
Here's the thing they could do. And this is again, I think we're trying to find a comfortable middle ground between womanizing James Bond who's slapping Dink's ass at the pool in Goldfinger because we're acknowledging that that's dated horribly. We're trying to find a middle ground between that and On Her Majesty's Secret Service or No Time to Die James Bond where he's like actually in love and like married. I think we need to bring back some sleazy sexual humor. Jim, I don't know how you feel about this, but there are two movies in the series that end on some of the best jokes ever written. No, it's not the Christmas Jones joke. It's The Spy Who Loved Me. What are you doing? Just keeping the British end up, sir. Like, that
Yes,
joke
yeah.
is a fucking amazing. And then even better, and it's a Q line at the end of Moonraker when they cut to him on the view screen and they're
Yeah,
like,
they're having sex in space.
007, what is he doing? And then Q's like, I believe he's attempting re-entry, sir. That is the best joke in motion picture history. I think we need more jokes like that to encapsulate kind of the womanizing Bond, even if he's only with one woman. You know what I mean? I think that could be a middle ground.
Yeah. Now, also, so first off, I do agree, but I don't know how modern audiences would play to that. I know you and I like that.
Yeah, that's yeah. I guess I think that stuff to me plays better than men talk and just slapping her ass. You know that I think that would play better. I think the
What
Roger
about
Moore
wait?
womanizing plays better than the Connery womanizing
Wait, aren't you?
to
Wait,
today's audience.
you're forgetting the best. The best Connery line when he walks up to the woman who's sunbathing and he goes, "I think you need to get something off your chest," and rips her bikini top off and strangles her.
Yeah, see, no, that's
Yeah.
and then that's so much worse because Connery looks like old and sleazy at that point, too. But yeah, so we're not 100% sure if we're continuing the Bond series. We're torn on how womanizing he is. We're torn on how we reinvent that character.
Now, well, I do have a question because
yes,
I'm confused. Now, when you're saying one woman a movie, like, do you mean like he's with one
Yeah.
new woman every movie, or he's
Yeah.
with? Okay, that's fine.
It's like Seinfeld. It's like a new he's dating a new woman like every episode. Like, how many repeat girlfriends do you have in Seinfeld? Not many.
Yeah, I mean, and for the most part, the Bond movies have only been like mostly one woman a movie
I
that he's actually
completely
sleeping
disagree.
with.
I'm just thinking of Thunderball. He sleeps with Fiona Volpe. He sleeps with Claudine Auger in the water, which I guess isn't sleeping with, because then he's sleeping with the fishes. But you know what I
That's
mean?
right.
Like,
Yeah, and then
and
also
and
at
then
Goldfinger, there's two, or
even
there's
Doctor
two.
No. There's Sylvia
one.
Trench.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
There's
See,
two.
I think most
Okay,
I think
never
most
mind. I take it
movies there've
back.
been at least two.
I take it back. My memory's failed me.
You can still have the femme fatale character, but if he just sleeps with only the Bond girl, I think that might play better.
Now, do you think we need a strong female agent character, whether she's good or bad, in our new Bond movies? Just
I
to
don't
give
think you
something
need
for
it.
the-
I think you may end up having it because I mean we get that even in the older movies. Even a lot of the villains, like Fiona in Thunderball, is a really fun character. Rosa Klebb in From Russia with Love, she's awesome. Like yeah, I think that's just going to happen naturally. I don't think that you need to set out to write. Oh, we're going to write it. She doesn't necessarily have to be the way the 007 was in No Time to Die, or the way kind of they made Moneypenny in Skyfall on.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking of like Melina, I think is her name, in For Your Eyes Only. That's like a really strong female character for that movie. And it's like, yeah, she's still a Bond girl. She still has a lot of the classic archetype, but she has her own independent goals. That's kind of like Claudine Auger has a little bit of that in Thunderball. Like, I think the best Bond girls have that already.
Yeah, I was just worried that they're gonna have to for modern audiences they would have to have like a female counterpart to James Bond. You know, much
Yeah,
like
see, I don't think they do because I think that, and I guess they've attempted that. I think that's what Halle Berry was supposed to be, and it didn't work because Halle Berry is like the worst actress in the world. And I think that's again kind of the 007 in No Time to Die, which I actually think worked for that movie. Yeah, I do think you always run the risk of like these movies, and I've been rewatching some of the older ones. Like I've started from the beginning, so I saw Doctor No, and like I'm still not the biggest Doctor No fan in the world, but the thing that movie gets right more than anything is it gets the character right. And as a first movie in a series, you see he's the coolest guy in the world. And
Well,
if you
yeah.
have a co-star, you're obviously going to have someone accompanying him, and yeah, they're not. You don't want to make them like a complete damsel, like some of the Roger Moore movies did with Britt Eklund and stuff. But like, you can't have someone be cooler than Bond,
or
even in like a
attempt,
scene,
or even like
Yeah,
attempt
exactly.
to be cooler than Bond. Like
yeah,
Bond has
because
to be
that's
the
just
coolest.
like he kind of has to, because otherwise, why are you making a movie about him? Like he's
Exactly.
special.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so there's that. So again, we have some questions about how we recreate this character. I think obviously you keep certain things going. I love the theme song tradition that each movie's got its own theme song by a different musician and stuff like that's awesome. Obviously you keep that. You keep the gun barrel. A lot of people were very upset that the gun barrels kept not appearing at the very beginning
Yep.
of the Craig movies. That never bothered me that much, but just go back to it because why not?
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, I think a Bond movie needs, a gorgeous woman, some fast, sexy cars, and fast, sexy women. You need James Bond, obviously.
Oh, do you for a James Bond movie?
But And what I didn't say was you need a man to play James Bond. You can't have a Jane Bond. And it's nothing against women.
That's his own thing, dude. Your own thing, and it's
exactly. If you want a woman's super spy movie, go ahead and make them. But this is a property that's been around since 1962 on film.
On film, yeah. For books, I think 54, maybe even. It's older than that, obviously.
Yeah. You
need the locations
aspects, yeah.
Yeah.
But we're getting like lots of articles written like, Bezos is like a real life Bond villain buying up all these things, Like here's a quote in an article I'm reading. Bezos is like a real life Bond villain, and now the future of one of the most iconic characters in British cinema history is at his mercy.
Yeah, the thing I don't like about it, and obviously MGM has had a stake in it for a long time, I don't love that it's in American hands, which in all likelihood won't translate to any significant change. Would they have still done again, we're assuming they're going to do television series, like they could still do that under Eon. But I think what kind of sucks about it is that it was like family owned. Like as big as Bond is, it's like it was like this to have the one kind of consistent family involved, and it's Cubby Broccoli, and I don't know when he passed away, but it's been Barbara for a couple of decades now, and it's like it just sucks that we're losing that.
Yeah, I was just skimming this article, and they're saying that after No Time to Die, Bond really wasn't making a lot of money. There was an issue where when Amazon bought MGM Studios for $8.5 billion.
Which I completely missed, by the way. I know I've seen
too.
Things listed as like Amazon MGM. I didn't hear about that. I heard about when Disney bought Fox. I heard about all this other shit. I just completely missed Amazon buying MGM.
But when they bought MGM, they also bought the rights to the existing 25 Bond movies, which they're saying in this article made $7.5 billion at the global box office to date. The creative control remained in the hands of Broccoli's daughter and stepson. Albert R. Broccoli bought the film rights to the movies from Ian Fleming in 1961.
Mm-hmm.
So you're right. So it has been family owned for a very long time, for 50
and
50
obviously
years.
someone that Ian Fleming, the creator of the character, approved of.
Oh, of
Which
course.
Fleming died, I think, in 64. So, like, that's, I mean, we're already the character of the franchise is so far away from Ian Fleming, but, like, we're losing one of our last true ties to that, too. And listen, Ian Fleming was an asshole. Like, who really cares? But, like, I don't know. It kind of matters.
So I just saw something here. It does hurt. I don't know how true this is. I'm also reading it from the Daily Mail. So it was just the first article that came up.
Oh, Christ.
One source who spoke to Miss Broccoli said Barbara and Amazon never saw eye to eye. To her, Bond is her family's legacy, something that must be nurtured and protected. She once told set designers to remove a door handle to a villain's lair because it didn't look evil enough.
I love it.
They're saying she has a lot of attention to detail. She's worried that Amazon won't have that kind of attention to detail.
And I'm sure she's right to worry about that shit. I mean...
Oh, yeah. An Amazon insider, meanwhile, said it wasn't a matter of if we would get full control of Bond, it was more how much will it cost. Everyone has their price. The last thing I'm going to read you here is Amazon wanted spin-off TV shows showing things like Miss Moneypenny's early years. In the end, Barbara decided it was easier to take the money rather than carry on fighting.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess I was worried about Q. I should have been worried about Moneypenny. Oh, man, that's gonna be bad. That's gonna be bad.
It is a shame that Amazon has bought the rights to two beloved properties. Lord of the Rings.
Your two favorite properties.
I know. I want to kill myself.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings and James Bond.
God, they're gonna buy pieces one of these days too, and then it's the big three.
Yeah. Or Hong Kong Godfather. I hope not.
How exciting do you think her life was that she ended up choosing a desk job, basically? Like, what the fuck can you do with that character?
Nothing.
She's
and on top of
Moneypenny.
that, the only exciting thing that was going on in her life was when James Bond would show up back at the office and he'd
that's
sexually
the impression
harass her
you
for a
certainly
bit.
get. Yeah,
well,
exactly.
Not even sexually harass her. They were both flirting constantly.
Yeah. What's your favorite Bond pun? Because I think it's shocking, positively shocking. Right?
That is
your favorite?
That is my favorite one.
Well, my favorite, and it's not even a line, but one of my favorite James Bond puns is when he finds Fiona in the bath, and she's like, "Do you mind getting me something to put on?" And he just hands her shoes. That is fucking hilarious. That's hysterical. That is so good. See, we don't have that Bond anymore. We have woke Bond. We don't have woke Bond, but we just don't have offensive sexist Bond. Is what we don't have woke Bond. There's going to be people who are going to say the next Bond is going to be woke and stuff, and
You know,
it's not going to be woke, but it's also it's just not he's not going to smack women on the ass and say or men talk. Like
yeah,
I think we know that those days are gone, but like there's still a big difference between that and woke.
we don't have silly, slightly sexist Bond. Is what you know?
No, yeah, I think we can bring back a little bit more than we probably think we can. I think we can keep the British end up.
Oh,
I think we
absolutely.
can I
Yeah.
think we can attempt re-entry.
Even something like I thought Christmas only came once a year. Like you can keep
Yeah,
stuff
there
like
you go.
that.
Yeah, I mean it's a terrible line, but I like the idea behind it. I like the attempt.
Yeah, I don't. I
Oh,
don't
James, you're
know.
such a cunning linguist. That one's a bit too much. That one's
I
not
know.
very good
You're like,
either.
okay, I get it. You hit the nail on the head. The other problem with Bond is I don't want to say they made him too serious with Daniel Craig, but they kind of did. There
They
wasn't enough
did,
room
but
for
they
him to be
also
funny.
but again they weren't consistent with it because I think they kind of abandoned that for at least a few of the movies.
Yeah, but what they did do was when you have this like cool badass Bond, he has cool like he does cool badass things. Like when he kills that guy at the end of Casino Royale, and he walks up to the Bond theme and he's holding that rifle after he shoots the
This
fella in
is
the
not
legs.
just the Bond theme, specifically the track titled "The Name's Bond," James Bond. So going back to how would we like to see the Bond series proceed? We don't need
Gimmicky
Blofeld.
henchman.
We don't need gimmicky main villain. We need gimmicky henchmen. Give me something. I know they had Batista and Spectre as just like a big guy, but we can do better than that. We can have a big guy that's got weird things too.
And again, this is all of this talk is just making me a little more depressed about Amazon owning the rights to James Bond now.
I mean, sure. Well, and you know, and again, this was I was going to ask you when we were talking about like where do you want to see the Bond series go, and this will be kind of a twofold question, but like because I was going to ask like, do you have an actor in mind, and I think the point, and I think you're with me on this. I don't know if we've truly talked about this, but I think the whole fucking point of James Bond is it's pointless to speculate on the next guy to play him because they're going to pick a somewhat unknown actor, and that's what's worked in the because then that actor is just if you play James Bond, you are James Bond. I'm not
Yes.
saying literally don't do anything. I'm not saying Daniel Craig can't do Knives Out. I am saying you are James Bond for as long as you're that part. Roger Moore was James Bond. Roger Moore played James Bond in the Cannonball Run, basically. I mean, you know,
Yeah. And Sean Connery couldn't escape James Bond.
yeah, Connery. I mean, he did a few things even in that time period. Like he did Marnie, but he was still James Bond though. And historically speaking, Connery's an unknown. He'd done a few movies, but he was not famous. Lazenby, as you said, complete unknown, model, not even an actor. This is his first movie. Roger Moore, The Saint,
Yeah.
relatively famous, but not
Yeah,
movie
people liked
famous,
him. Yeah.
not American famous. I don't think.
No.
Dalton is like a stage guy. Like he was I want to say like a complete unknown to like moviegoers. Brosnan a little bit more famous than that, probably on the Roger Moore level of fame where he's like he's kind of a celebrity but not really. And then Craig was he had been in some movies but Craig was not
Laura
famous.
Croft.
Road to Perdition, A
Yeah.
Layer Cake, which is really good. Like he had done stuff, but he wasn't a star.
No,
And
exactly.
that's why like again when they ended up going Craig when all logic would have said they go Clive Owen.
Well, we guessed as to why he didn't get that
No,
role.
we don't actually think he missed out on it because of Sin City. I think he missed out on it because they wanted something a little bit different. I think they've always been a little bit outside the box with casting, and it's like, will that continue with Amazon?
I
I
don't
would
know.
guess it probably doesn't. I bet Amazon plays it a little bit more safe.
I
And
think they're going
Amazon
to
gets
go for
Henry
well-known
Cavill
actor.
or
Yeah.
Aaron Taylor Johnson or
Yeah.
Idris Elba's too old, but like some of those guys, you know, I think they'll probably play it safe. I appreciate I've always appreciated the James Bond series, taking risks every now and then, but knowing what they are. But there was a time period too, and it's relevant with On Her Majesty's Secret Service, where they're kind of reacting to they were constantly shifting tones. You only live twice, a little too goofy. Okay, we're going to go more serious when we come back. We're going to fewer gadgets. But then people didn't really like this one. So then it's like, okay, we'll go goofy again. And Diamonds Are Forever. A little too goofy, but the biggest problem is Connery's checked out. So let's get an actor who can actually play the goofy stuff, and then it's Roger Moore. But then he goes on for too long,
Yeah, yeah,
and it
he's
got too
Bond for what, like
goofy.
12 years or something, 14
So
years.
okay, we'll get Timothy Dalton, the most serious Bond has ever been, probably, and he plays it much more serious. But then those movies are maybe too serious. I think License to Kill, if I'm not mistaken, was got a 15 rating in the UK, which is like their equivalent of a rated R. And they're
Oh,
probably like,
interesting.
okay, what the fuck are we doing? We need to be a little bit more lighthearted. And then they get Pierce Brosnan, and it's much more lighthearted. But then Die Another Day goes too far. Die Another Day is basically Moonraker for the 21st century, and so it's like, okay, we need to go back to the roots. We need to be serious, and that's Craig.
And I remember when Craig was hired as James Bond, was cast rather as James Bond, people were like, "Oh my god, he's blonde, he's kind
Yeah,
of short,
Die
and
Another
he's
Day.
buff."
Die Another Day. A friend showed me that article. DYE Another Day.
Yeah,
Which I
yeah.
couldn't find. I was looking for that because I mentioned that in some episode that I was editing into a video, and I could not find that article, unfortunately.
Another fear that I have about Amazon taking this over is that they're going to take, because they're notoriously bad, if you look at Lord of the Rings, at guessing what the audience wants.
Yeah, I'll follow your lead here because I don't know a damn thing about the Lord of the Rings television series.
I watched a couple episodes, and it reminds me of like new Star Trek, new Trek stuff.
Because they also
Yeah.
did Watchmen, and I think people liked Watchmen.
Oh, like there's a TV show, Watchmen.
Yeah, they did like a miniseries.
The big scary thing is I think Amazon's going to look at Bond and say, okay, what is James Bond? James Bond is action, British man, beautiful women. Okay, and they're going to take all the personality of Bond, all the jokes of Bond, all the camp stuff that we like, and they're not going to use any of that. They're going to make it like Mission Impossible with the James Bond character, which is kind of arguably what the last Bond movie did, which is why I wasn't a big fan of it.